Hello everyone, I'm Varsha Kothru, Marketing Manager at Kloves. Thank you for joining us in Kloves monthly webinar. Today we'll be discussing ServiceNow Event Management. Agenda. I'm going to take a couple of minutes through housekeeping, talk about Kloves, followed by the presentation and finally Q&A. Housekeeping. This webinar will be recorded and you'll be able to access it later. For Q&A, you are on mute. If you have any questions, please use Q&A section in your Zoom control panel and our panelists will answer them. There are some other actions which you can tell the speaker if he needs to go slow, or if there are any other questions, you can use your Zoom control panel. For our social media channels are listed here. You can access our previous webinar at our Kloves YouTube channel. Now about Kloves. Since 2011, Kloves has been a ServiceNow partner headquarters just corner from ServiceNow in Santa Clara. With over 250 customers and 400 plus implementations, we are top server provider that executes projects globally. We are HR, CSM and ITSM experts committed to delivery, excellent user and customer experience. Our panelist for today is Pranav Bhagat, ServiceNow consultant at Kloves Inc. Pranav, welcome and thank you for joining us. So at this point, Pranav will take from here.
Thank you, Varsha, for the warm welcome. So firstly, I'll start off what we're going to cover today. So we're going to start off with the introduction to ITOM. So in that, we're going to talk about what is ITOM and what are the different applications that are part of ITOM. Then we're going to move into the fundamentals of event management and event management process. Then we're going to talk about what is event and what are event rules. Then alert management rule. Then I'll give you a quick demo on the event management rules, like how the event management works in ServiceNow. And then we're going to discuss about some best practices for implementing event management. So let's start off. So what is ITOM? So that's the first question that comes in our mind when we are discussing about ITOM. So ITOM is nothing but a suite of applications that work together to automate operations management within your organization. So ITOM, it's suite of applications. So inside of ITOM, we have 6 major applications: discovery, service mapping, operational intelligence, orchestration, event management, and cloud management. So firstly, let's discuss about discovery. So discovery is the technology which helps us discover the CIs that are present in our infrastructure, like the servers, network devices, printers, application, and a lot more. This discovery is basically used to populate the CMDB in ServiceNow. Then comes the service mapping. So service mapping moves the CMDB into the next strategic level by providing a targeting mapping of the IT components that supports a particular state of a business service. Then comes event management. So event management collaborates with existing monitoring tools like SolarWinds is there, SCOM, and a lot more. And from that, the events come into ServiceNow and we just pass the event to create alerts, then alerts get converted into the particular task, like either incident, problem, and all. So we're going to discuss about event management in detail. Then comes operational intelligence. So operational intelligence proactively identifies anomalous behavior in your IT infrastructure before it causes any outage. Then we have cloud management. So cloud management solution gives us it helps us collaborate with the clouds, and we have the built-in cloud methods that are provided by ServiceNow, like for Azure, AWS, and a lot more other things. And the last thing, orchestration. So orchestration provides a final piece of the jigsaw. Through the use of workflows, mid servers, and network processing technology, orchestration can provide automated investigation and remediation of IT systems. So that's what is ITOM and the ITOM applications. So these are certain benefits of ITOM application, because we need benefits. That's why we'll be implementing their solutions. So it enhances service visibility. So it helps us understand how IT infrastructure across data centers and cloud providers work together to deliver a business service. Then comes improved service availability. It proactively detects, quick diagnose, and automatically remediates service issues. So by the use of the operational intelligence application. Then comes the increased service agility. So it automates IT processes and initiates remediation action to proactively address the problematic condition affecting the business service, and then manages hybrid clouds. So we use basically the cloud management application provided by ServiceNow to manage our hybrid clouds. So, and lastly, leverages ITSM investment. So we know that ITSM and ITOM are part of the same ServiceNow platform. So, ITSM and ITOM are integrated together. So that's why we can leverage the ITSM also. So that's the beauty of ServiceNow, because all the applications, whether for service management, operational management, and business management, are present in the same ServiceNow environment. So these are some of the benefits of using ServiceNow ITOM solution. And now let's come into what is event management. So ServiceNow event management. Okay, so let's start off what is event management. I'm seeing some question in the chat, so I'll just pause after some time and just answer those questions. Right. So ServiceNow's event management automatically creates actionable alerts from events captured by the third-party monitoring system. So a configuration data dashboard provides a consolidated view of all the service impacting events, including a list of active alerts, impacted services, and associated incidents. So basically, when we go into the demo, I'll show you how we have a very beautiful dashboard that is provided by ServiceNow, in which we can see how the alerts are affecting our business services. And in order to generate qualified alerts, events are processed through filters that normalizes and deduplicate the incoming stream. Then lastly, alerts are then mapped to a configuration item in a ServiceNow configuration management database, and rules may be applied to trigger automated actions. So that's the basis of what is event management. Then these are certain key features that you're seeing on the screen. There are a lot more. So event management, incident creation. So as I discussed before, ITOM and operation management and service management are part of the same platform. So from the event management, we can generate incidents or any task-based activities in ServiceNow. Leverages existing infrastructure monitoring. So as we discussed, so ServiceNow can easily integrate with all the monitoring tools like SolarWinds is there, SCOM and all, so that all the alerts from that side comes into ServiceNow. Upgrades. So upgrades, as we all know, upgrades are very easy and very easy to do in ServiceNow if you follow a proper process. And then comes the availability. So as ServiceNow is proven for availability, it's almost available 99% of the time, and it can scale easily to your enterprise. And lastly, innovation. So we all know ServiceNow is a very innovative company. So in every release, they get something new for us. For example, in New York release, we got something like connector for SAP Solution Manager, and we got a lot of new subflows for it. So, and then again, it consolidates events from different sources, like as I already discussed, then filters events. So we can filter events to reduce noise and generate qualified alerts. So generally, the best practice for filtering event is at the source, but ServiceNow can also does that for us. So that's also there. And then it maps events to the particular CMDB CIs, and then it suppresses alerts due to planned maintenance. So suppose there are certain alerts like that are generated from some events that are generating from the monitoring tools that are like based on some planned maintenance and all. So we can just suppress those things out. And like lastly, it provides troubleshooting capabilities utilizing events and performance data. So that are the key features of event management. So now let's discuss about the event management process. So basically, event management process is like, firstly, event management collects events from the monitoring systems like the SCOM, SolarWinds, and other monitoring system, and stores the events in the event table in ServiceNow. So that's the first step. Now, event management creates an alert. So alert to let IT team knows about the issues. To do this, event management uses the event rules. So we can configure the event rules, and event rules will map fields in the event fields to the alert, associate or bind events to a specific CI, apply thresholds for the number and rate of reoccurring events, and filtering out certain events. So that's the use of event rules. So we're gonna discuss about event rules in detail. Then we can group the related alerts. So for example, there are alerts that are generated on the same CI. So we can group those alerts together, and we can identify a primary alert. And lastly, like event management uses the alert rules to perform action to remedy the issues with the like creating task or simply closing the alert and all that. So this is kind of a high level process of how the event management works. So from this diagram, you can just see like we have something like event sources. From the event sources, it comes into ServiceNow in the ServiceNow event table. And then we have the mapping rules, transform rules, threshold rules, and filters. All these things are applied, and then we generate the qualified alerts, and then alerts can trigger incidents. So this is the basic idea of how the event management process is. Now let's discuss in some detail. So you can see we have different sources. So sources can be like SNMP traps or some, we're gonna discuss about sources in the next slide. Then from that, we have the mid server. So mid server communicate through the ECC queue to ServiceNow, and it can just populate the event table, then event rules are applied and alerts are created, then alert management rules are there, which can create the remediation activities. So that's basically the event management process. So before going into the details of each and everything, I'll just take up some question. So if any one of you have any question, you can use the Q&A section and ask your questions. Okay. So that's fine. So I see there are no questions till now. So let's start off with the event sources now. So event sources, let's discuss about connectors. So ServiceNow has given us some built-in connectors. So these connectors can pull data from your monitoring tools. We just have to configure the proper credentials and everything in the connector instance, and we can just pull the thing using mid server. Then the second source is the inbound email push. So any emails can be sent from the monitoring tool to ServiceNow, and we have the inbound actions there, which can just process those things and save it to the event table. And then you see the scripts. So now you see a question mark with the mid server. That means scripts can be directly pushed into ServiceNow, or we can use the mid server. So both, like we can use without, like PowerShell is there. We can just simply hit the ServiceNow API, and it can just create a particular event in our event table. And lastly, we have the SNMP trap push, which uses the mid server to push data into ServiceNow. So in our demo, we're gonna see how we can just push from a script. Like I'll show you how we can do it using the Postman tool. I'll explain you about the Postman tool when we go into the demo. So now let's discuss what is a mid server. So mid server stands for management, instrumentation, and discovery. It's just a lightweight Java process running on a Linux or Windows platform that resides within the enterprise network. So mid server doesn't require any additional hardware because its consumption is very low. So only the sole purpose of mid server is to execute work requests and return results to ServiceNow instance for processing in effect. So a mid server can be considered as a remote extension of ServiceNow instance on an enterprise network. So basically, mid server is just an extension. So it can just process some work on the infrastructure or on the particular infrastructure where it's hosted. And from there, it can just like return the process data to ServiceNow. And I'll explain you how it processes this thing by use of ECC queue. So that's our next topic. So, and then connection are initiated from mid server inside enterprise firewall. No inbound rules from the cloud instance are required. All communication happens on HTTPS, and meaning it's like all the traffic is encrypted, so you don't need to worry about any security breach. So that's the basic stuff of mid server. Now let's discuss about ECC queue. So ECC queue is nothing but a database table. Unlike like we have all the tables in ServiceNow, we have incident table, problem. So it's also a table. Only thing is that this table is normally queried, updated, and inserted by other systems like the mid server. So what happens is like whenever there is a record, so like ServiceNow creates a record as an output, so that then the mid server picks that output and just performs the work based on the output message and sends the input into ServiceNow, and then it is processed. So that's basically how the ECC queue works. And the ECC queue is just a normal connection between a ServiceNow instance and other system that integrate with it. So like ServiceNow, so mid server is used by various application. It can be used by discovery, orchestration, event management, and other integrations also. So that's how the ECC queue works. So again, this is a diagram that can explain you how it works. So basically ECC queue is nothing but a table that resides in ServiceNow, and from that table ServiceNow puts some work in the form of output, and this thing is picked up by mid server, and mid server performs the operation on the infrastructure, and then it returns something on the as input, and it is then processed and stored into the system. For example, like probes and sensors are there in discovery, so that can be that uses ECCQ and all. So that's the basic understanding of how ECCQ works. And then so now the question comes up where the mid server needs to be installed. So ServiceNow is normally hosted in the ServiceNow data center, so it doesn't have the ability to access the enterprise network directly. So many enterprises have multiple network, often separated by slow like the WAN links and security barriers. So discovery needs to access them all. So mid server can be installed behind company firewall, allowing for communication between ServiceNow and rest of the company network. So that's where the mid server. So basically, it's installed in company's private network so that it can communicate to ServiceNow. So as I told you before, mid server is nothing but the extension of ServiceNow. So its sole purpose is to execute work. So that completes our mid server. So now we saw what are event sources. So now event sources uses the mid server to communicate to ServiceNow. Now what they're gonna create? So an alert. Firstly, an event will be created. So what is an event? An event is just a notification from one or more monitoring tool that indicates something of interest has occurred, and it is a notification from CI in your IT system. So pretty simple. So it can be, for example, it can be something like Windows server is down or up, or hard disk is 90% full. So this is just an event. So it's something like happened to the monitoring tool, and that's what it's kind of a notification, nothing else. And so when the event is sent into ServiceNow, these are certain parameters that are sent with it. So firstly, we'll discuss about source. So source can be anything. It can be SolarWinds or any monitoring tool, SolarWinds, any monitoring tool. Then comes the node. So node is something, it is like it can be an IP address, it can be a name or anything. It represents the physical or virtual host device on which the event occurred. So suppose event occurred on the Windows server. So that node will be the IP of that Windows server, or it can be the name of that node. And the message key is something that uniquely identifies a particular event. So suppose a same event is generated. So suppose like monitoring tool generated 2 events. with the same message key. So ServiceNow will get to know, okay, yeah, this event is generated for same, so it can just like create a primary and secondary alert based on the message key and all. Then the severity, so how critical is the event? So it can be critical, major, minor, warning, or clear. So these are the severity. And then the description. So what is the description? So it can be like World Wide Web publishing server down, or it can be anything. And then comes the processing notes and state. So processing notes and state are taken care by ServiceNow. So basically, processing note explains how the event was processed in ServiceNow, like whether it was bind to which particular node. So suppose we got it at IP address, so it will ServiceNow will automatically look for the IP address in our CMDB CI table, and in that it will, if it found anything, it will just update the processing node. And then we have different states for event. It can be ready, processed, ignore, or error. So that's are the different attributes of events. Then comes, this is just an example of event. So this is the same event that I'm going to use when I give you a demo. You can see the source is Postman. I'll explain you Postman when I'm in the demo. Then we have something like a node. So node can be like whatever the server name or IP, anything. So I just created a demo server, and then type and resource, severity, and description. So that's what I created. And one thing you might be thinking, like, there is no message key. So if there is no message key present in the event, so ServiceNow automatically generates the message key by the combination of the event parameters. So that's what is a basic idea of raw event. And then comes the event rules. So event rules provides a key component event in event processing and transformation. So when, just think, when the event, like when we use the APIs to populate the event table, now how the events will be processed. So this is the key component. Event rules are basically used to process the events and to make sure that it creates a qualified alerts. So we have certain kinds of, like suppose if the event rule has a severity of 5, like that means it's just an info event, so we don't want to create any kind of alert. Like it totally depends on our rules. We can either ignore, transform, or apply threshold to generate any required alerts. So there are already baseline event rules for SolarWinds, COM, Zebrix, SNMP traps, and a lot more. So you don't need to worry about certain event rules for like these like the infrastructure event monitoring tools like SolarWinds and SCOM. So this is the key component for processing any events. Then comes the alert management dashboard. So alert management dashboard provides a business service centric view of all the alerts. So basically this is the place where you will be able to see how what like how the event affected your business service. So that's a place where you will be seeing all these things. So each tile on the dashboard represents a business service or an alert group. Using them, you can drill into each business service to see the affected CIs and get an understanding of overall impact of whatever caused the alert. In the alert console and alert intelligent workspace, you can manage individual alerts as needed. So before, like there was alert console that was used. Now we have something like agent workspace. So ServiceNow provides us with the new view for like to manage our alerts using the alert intelligent workspace. So in the demo, I'm going to show you the alert console and the event management dashboard. Both the things I'll show you in the demo. And this is the event management dashboard. So this is how it will look. So see, each tile in the dashboard represents a service. So whatever the service are, and when you click on each tile, you'll be able to see the alerts that are there for that particular tile. So this color of this tile will change based on the criticality, business criticality, priority, and other like stuff. Like you can just prioritize by business criticality and priority. So that's how the event management dashboard looks like. And Then let's move into alerts. So what is an alert now? So an alert is generated by event management for selected events that are considered to be important and requires attention. So alerts can be appointed to servers, network devices, business services, and other CIs in the CMD. An alert can be processed by simply acknowledging it, or we can raise a task or trigger remediation activities via orchestration. So this is what alert does. So basically, when like I'll just repeat the process. What happens? Firstly, we have the event sources. So from the event sources, events are generated, and these are stored into the event table. From the event table, we have the event rules that are there, which will parse the data from the events and create the particular alert. And from the alert, now comes like these are some alert attributes that are there. So source, node, category, message key, task, state, and severity. So you might be like thinking these are all similar to the events. Some of them are similar to the events. Yeah, you're absolutely correct with that if you're thinking like that. So source, node, and all these things are rolled from the events, and message key is rolled from the event, and task. So if there is any kind of task that is created for that alert, the task field will get populated. And then we have different states of alerts. So open, reopen, flapping, and closed. And severity will be critical, major, minor, warning, and clear. So these are the alert attributes. Now this state, flapping, you might be thinking, what is a flapping state? So flapping state is something like when the alerts comes into like it gets open, close in a very short interval of time. So suppose a monitoring tool generated like 50 alerts, so 50 events at a time. So now like for certain events, like we have the event rules which will process. So one event rule was opening the alert, one was closing, one was opening, one was closing. So the thing was that it was continuously getting opened and closed. So the ServiceNow system will put that alert into the flapping state. So in that flapping state, it means it's flapping and all. So once the threshold breaks, like once the event stops, then it will get to the last state which it was. So this is the state of flapping, and that's that. These are the different states of the alerts. And so this now where we can view the alerts. So we can view the alerts in the alert console. So alerts console is a primary UI used to view and manage alerts. It is similar to the alert information displayed at the bottom of the event management dashboard. So that's like when we view the dashboard down, we can see the alert console, and that alert console has also a separate module. And then it shows all the incoming alert for a business service in a single view, and by default it shows all the primary and open alert. It doesn't display any closed alert. So that's what an alert console is. So and after that, this is how the alert console looks like. So when you go into the alert console, you will be able to see all the alerts that are there. Now, lastly, the alert management rules come up. So alert management rules provides a final tier in managing the state of the IT infrastructure. So the alerts can be linked to an assignable task such as an incident or problem. The alert management rule can also trigger remediation such as retrieving log files or processing data. And alert management rule are very simple to configure. So again, so all these things can be configured into ServiceNow so that we can generate the proper tasks from the alerts. So again, let me just repeat the process now. Like firstly, we had the event sources. From the event sources, events were generated, and event table in ServiceNow was populated. Once it got populated, then there were event rules that were triggered, which created the qualified alerts. And those qualified alerts, we have the alert management rules that were there. So alert management rules were used to create any task, or it can just simply close the events or just simply acknowledge the alert. So that's the whole process of how the event management works. So before moving to the demo, I'll just ask you if you guys have any question, you can just post in the chat or in the Q&A section.
Yeah, Pranav. I think we have received one question related to mid-server.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the question is, does connector require a mid-server to be installed?
Yes, it definitely requires a mid server to be installed because mid server, so connector is something which will just pull the data from the monitoring tool. So we need the mid server capabilities for that. And just for your information, connectors are built on Java by using JavaScript and Groovy scripts. So that's how the connector works. Okay, I hope it answers the question.
Yes,
So
and there is another question related to mid-server. Where should be mid-server installed?
okay, so this is the thing that I explained in the slide before. So mid server is basically installed in the private network. So wherever you're like, every company has their own private network. So it is installed in the private network, possibly on a Windows Server host or a Linux server. So that's the where the mid server is installed. So let's move into demo now.
Thanks,
So,
Pranav.
so let me just, so I'm quickly logging into my instance. So hopefully you guys are able to see my ServiceNow instance. And firstly, I'll just introduce you to the how the environment is set up. So basically, I'm using a Postman tool. So what is a Postman tool? Oh, I think there is. Okay. So Postman tool is basically a tool which is used to fire APIs from ServiceNow.
Pranav, we can only see the slide deck of the demo. We
Okay,
cannot see your environment. Can you please share it again?
sure, I can just do that. I can just pause. Hopefully now you will be able to, now you are able to see. Okay, I'm sharing it now. Just confirm me if you're able to see my screen now. I'm in the Postman tool. Are you able to see the Postman tool?
Yep, yep.
Okay,
Thanks.
awesome. So firstly, let me explain you the Postman tool, and then I'll introduce you my how the ServiceNow environment is built. Then we'll just fire some events and see what are the results. So Postman tool is nothing but a tool which can fire some APIs. So as we know, we have table APIs in ServiceNow. So this link looks like a table API. So basically, what I'm using, it's a table API which can just fire an event to the ServiceNow, and it can just get saved into the ServiceNow event table. So this is the table name of the event table, em underscore event. So I'm passing the headers, and in the body, if you remember, this is the same data that I showed you in the deck, which is like the source is there, then the node is there, the type and resource and other parameters that are there. So that's the environment. So now let me just simply go into ServiceNow. So firstly, I created a technical service. So for those who don't know what is a technical service, so a technical service is nothing but a dynamic grouping of CIs based on some common criteria. For example, we can create a technical service based on the location. So if we have an office in California, so we can have a dynamic grouping of all the Windows server that are in the California location. So I have created this technical service demo Windows Server service. And if I open this record, so what I did, I just added a filter. It's loading up. So I just added a filter, which is like name is equal to demo underscore server. And the state, this is very important. The state of the business service should be operational so that it can be visible in the dashboard. Okay, so this is the first technical service that I created. Now let me click on the event management dashboard. This is the dashboard. It's loading up. So let me just click on it. Yeah, so you are able to see this is the dashboard for the event management, and you can see down here this is the alert console that is there, in which all the alerts will be showing up that are being generated for this service. Right now we don't have any alerts for this, so it will show, and the status of the service is green, so that means there is no issues in this service. Then we have the alert events table. So you can see this is the event table, and this is some demo data that's present in this, in the form of like like event management, self-monitoring and all. This is some demo data. And then we have configured some event rules and some alert management rules that I'm going to explain when we fire an event. So now let's use our postman to fire first event. So first event is on node demo server, and we have the severity 1 that is critical, and we are saying that CPU utilization is 90% for the last 5 minutes. So let's just send it now. So now you see we got a status of 201. That means there is a record that is created, and we got some response in like the resolution code, state, and other things. Okay. So now let's go back to the events, and if I go to all events now, you see we have an event that is created for us. And if I open the event, you see we have different fields, like the source is there, then the node is there, then we have the type that is coming from the parameters what I specified, and then the resource. And you see the severity is 1, that is critical, and you see the processing nodes. So it says that a node will be resolved to a particular CI with this ID. So that's the same CI that I created. So I can just simply go into this CI and just show you. See, this is a particular Windows server that I have created. So basically in real world, all these Windows server will be discovered using discovery. And once these are discovered, then all these will be populated. So for the demo purpose, I just created a demo server just manually. So that's how I created. Now let's go back to the dashboard view. So when I click on this event management dashboard, you can just see now we have this particular, the color of this particular service got changed, and you can see there is an alert that is created with severity equal to critical. And when I just click the alert now, and it will just open in a new tab, you are able to see we have the source that is coming from the event node type and all these things that are coming. And you see I didn't give any message key, so it automatically generated the message key by the combination of source, node, type, and resource. So that's how ServiceNow generates a message key automatically. And just see this is the task that is automatically created. So when I click on this I button, so it can take me to the particular incident that is there. Just see the short description and all these things got rolled up from the alert, right? So that's how the events and all these things works. And now let me just go back to this console, and now let me firstly show you how this is happening. So firstly, when there is an event that's created, the event rules come into picture. So I'll go to the event rules. So I created this event rules. So you see, this is a demo event rule. I'll just open this one. So taking a bit time to open that. So this event rules just take some time because this is a demo instance, so it generally take a bit time, but I'll give you an overview till the time it's loading. So I configured the event rules with certain filters, like the source is postman, and and all the like the description contains this thing, then it will be created into alerts. Let me just click on this event tool again. So it's just being loaded up. I'll just try to open in a new tab. Hopefully it opens quickly. Yeah, it now opened quickly. You see, we have this particular demo event that is there. I specified the condition, and if I open in a designer, it will give me an idea of how I configure it. So it's getting loaded up. So let me just go back here. Till the time it's loading up, I will explain you once it loads up, I'll just explain you at that time. Then so I have configured the event rules in such a way that once this kind of data comes up, like the source is this and node and all these things, then an alert will be generated. So I configured that thing, and based on that, the alerts were created. I think it's loaded now. So you can see. So I added some filters to it, like it's loading still. So you can see node is this and type is this and resource and all these things I added. And based on that, it is creating the particular alert. Now, once the alert is created, so I have created some alert rules. So you can see I have created two different alert rules, which again matches a certain condition. So I'll just open one alert rule, and you can see that I configured the alert rules based on alert filters, like this is the filter and severity is 1. And once it is there, then I'm just launching a particular subflow that is there, like the create incident flow. So that's what I'm doing in the actions. I just specified the particular subflow. So that's why there was an incident that was created. And after this thing, the incident was created. So this is how the process works. So firstly, we had the event data that came into event table. Then from that, event rules triggered. Event rules created an alert. After that, alert was processed using the alert management rule, and all these things, and then the incident was created. Now, so I'll just do one thing now. I'll just delete these all alerts. Firstly, I can just open this alert and just close it. Then I'll show you one more alert event, how it looks. So firstly, I'll just close it so that we have everything cleared up. So I'm going to delete this particular event. And similarly, so now if I go to this dashboard, you see it's green now, there is nothing. Now I have another type of event that is there, which has a body of same, but in this we have the severity equal to 5, and we have like CPU utilization is 30% for the last 5 minutes. So this is kind of an info event. So if I just send it now, so you see it got created, and if I go here and if I click on all events now, so you see it just got created. When I click on this event, so you see the severity is equal to info, and alert got created. But instead of creating an event now, instead of creating an incident now, it will automatically get closed. Why it got closed? Because I configure the alert management rules, and you can see the alert execution. It closed the thing. This is the one that executed just now. This is for the old one, right? And that's why there was no task was created. I'll go back to the alert management rules and show you this alert management rule. So basically in this, I had the severity equal to info, and I had the action as close alert. So that's how all this thing works. So we created all these things, and you can just see if I go to the dashboard, there is nothing on the dashboard because that was just an info event. And you see there are no alerts coming up because both the alerts, one alert I closed manually and other alert was automatically closed because it was just by the use of alert management rules. So that's pretty much it in the demo part. And now I'm back to my slide deck. So Varsha, can you just confirm me whether you're able to see my slide deck?
Yes, I do. Thanks.
Okay. So now that was the demo part of how the event management process works. I basically used the Postman tool just to, and basically Postman tool was using the table APIs to throw the events to the ServiceNow event table, and from that event rules and alert management rules were configured. So now, what are some of the best practices for implementing event management? Firstly, always consider filtering out events at the source. We can do it on ServiceNow, in ServiceNow also, but it is always preferred to do it on the source so that we can reduce the noise and all. And then we have to just baseline certain things like what events are just like they're non-critical, and how whether these are noise and all that thing. So those things we have to do. And during the first implementation, if you're implementing event management for the first time, always ignore the most non-critical events. So that we don't want initially. And then if you have a very big environment, you can enable the multi-node processing property. So what is basically a multi-node processing property is like it will use some of the other nodes that are part of ServiceNow, like we have the ServiceNow nodes, and it can just process the events more quickly. So that's what multi-node processing is. And always use like the alert management rules to automate responses. So basically all these things like when I create, you just saw how I just created a severity one, and I created a proper alert management rule, so it closed the alert. So you should always prefer that way. You can also do it manually, like by clicking on close, but use this thing, alert management rules for that. And lastly, adopt a monitoring strategy of prevention is better than cure. So that's are the some of the best practices from my experience on event management. And so that's all I have for you in this webinar. Now I'm like open to questions. So you guys can ask any question on the event management or whatever I've covered. And so now,
So, Pranav, I have received one question.
mhm.
What is used to parse the raw event data?
So that is basically if you have a raw event data. So basically event rules are used to parse that thing to create qualified alerts. So that is, so event rules. So one more question. Yeah, I'm seeing one more question. Yeah. So Rahim, you're raising your hand. So can you please ask your question? So will you be sharing the presentation and the video of the event? So video will be uploaded on our Kloves YouTube channel so that you can view the video. And there is one more question that is coming up. So what is a correlation rules? Okay, so what is correlation rule? So basically when we have multiple alerts that are created for a particular CAT, so ServiceNow can like make one alert as primary alert and attach all the other alerts as secondary. So it can be done manually, or you can use ServiceNow's automated thing, which is based on ServiceNow's machine learning algorithms. So that's what correlation rules are. And so that's one question that I'm seeing. And okay, so any other questions? Okay, So one question that is coming up is like, okay, you were talking about threshold rules. So what is that threshold rules? Okay, so threshold rules come up in the event rule, in part of event rules. So what happens is like you, as I was telling you, a monitoring tool can fire like 20 events sometimes on a certain like on a certain alert or on a certain CI. So what happens is like we have to have a threshold. Like suppose we can have a threshold like if in 90 seconds there are this kind of three events are generated, then an alert will be created. So that's what kind of a threshold is. So basically we set a certain threshold so that if it passes that threshold, then only alerts are created. So why threshold is basically used? The threshold is basically used for threshold is basically used to filter out noise and like all the noise and all. So again, this is used to do filtering on the ServiceNow side, but you can also, but the best practice is to always filter all the events uh, in the source side, like whatever the source that is. So that is one question that is coming. And one more question that I'm seeing is event field mapping. So what is event field mapping? Okay, so event field mapping. So basically what happens is like whenever, like suppose right now when I was passing data from the raw event data, so the severity was info. Like I was just passing one because I know that one will go and create a critical severity. But what happens is like sometimes that severity is not set to like they can send directly critical, so it won't map to the event table. So we can create some event mapping, so that whenever something like critical comes up, we can map it directly to the uh, like we can map it to the severity as critical, right? So it's simply a way to map the raw event data to the particular event table fields. So that's basically what event field mapping is. And if you go into ServiceNow, you'll be find a lot of event mapping for like the most popular monitoring tools like SolarWinds is there, SCOM is there, and all that. And there you can see like because SolarWind has some kind of like they will send like one hyphen critical or something. So all these things are already created for mapping those things into ServiceNow. So okay, one last question that I'm seeing. Okay, there is one question on regular expression. So you are asking what we use regular expressions to parse the data if the node is not present. Okay, that's a really good question. So regular expression, so like when suppose sometimes this happens a lot of time that the node is not directly sent, so we have like, and if there is no node, and then we can't just go forward and create an alert because we don't know on which particular device the alert is being created, right? So what happens is like we use the event rules to write certain regex, and suppose the node is coming is as part of the description, so we can write the regular expression to parse that node from the description and populate in the node field. So that is what we can do in the transforming of the event in the event rules. So that is also one part of that. Okay, so that's, I think that's all. These were the all questions that I was seeing. So yeah, I think there is no other questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I also cannot see any more questions.
Okay.
Yeah, there is one more question I can see, Pranav. Do you suggest any data sources to refer event management info along with ServiceNow documentation?
Any data source to refer event management info. Okay, so if you're talking about data sources, so data sources like you always have to see like on with what tool you are integrating ServiceNow with. Like suppose there are SolarWinds or SCOM is there. So you first check whether that, like whether there is any connector that is present. And again, if the connector is present, so you can just like modify that connector depending on your use case, or you can directly use those things up. So that's what I can recommend. And what you were asking, the other question is alongside referring to ServiceNow documentation. See, so I'll tell you one thing. When I implement all these things as a ServiceNow professional, we should not think like we are subject matter experts for all the tools, right? So always talk with the proper subject matter expert of that tool and see how they are passing the data to you. And on the basis of that discussion, you build on all these things. So what I understood is like you don't need to have information of all the data sources that are there, because there are a lot of data sources and nobody can have information of all. So it's better whenever you are in part of some implementation, always discuss with that SME, and then on the basis of your discussion you just build the solution accordingly. I hope this answers your question. Okay, so yes, it's clear. Okay, awesome, thank you. So I think these are the only questions that are there. So
Yes, right, Pranav. Uh, Thank you guys for sharing your questions. If you have any more questions, please email us at sales@clovesing.com. Also, all of the attendees will be receiving an email with a link to view this webinar on our YouTube channel. So thank you once again, Pranav, for sharing your experience and this webinar. And thanks everyone for attending this webinar. So see you next month for next Kloves webinar.
thank you guys. Bye.